Good morning. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to today's live conversation. Today we are keeping it real and keeping it serious. We're talking about saviorism, self-flagellation, and free labor. Oh, something's going on with my camera. There we go. Saviorism, self-flagellation, and free labor. I think this is a very good conversation we're going to have today. I think it's really important. Before we get into it, for me to say that if you are not a subscriber to our Substack, please consider becoming a paid subscriber at Heal Your Way Forward. Thank you for being here, JP to the H. If you are not a follower on YouTube, our lives usually live on YouTube after we are done. And so I really am excited. I'm going to take a breath because this is not my usual conversation, but it's something that you're going to be seeing a lot in October. So this one is like straight from the gut. So this is not the plan for my lives. My lives are all around Heal Your Way Forward for the next 45 days. It's like my plan was we're going to talk about Heal Your Way Forward for the next 45 days. And we kicked it off yesterday talking about bell hooks. And if you want to watch the video from yesterday, it's on our YouTube account. And I've shared some clips on the Heal Your Way Forward Instagram and on Substack. Hey, Sam, thanks for being here. And this is not a planned live, but I had an experience yesterday that I've been talking about for a couple of months with other Black liberation teachers. And as a mindfulness teacher in this space, I want to be mindful of the things that I share and say. But I also just noticed a pattern. And it's not by coincidence. I think that my lives, I used to like kind of have ideas and just script out for the month, but like I haven't done that. And so I think there's an underlying message that I'm supposed to be sharing. And I hope you can stay for the whole live. It might not be too long. But I've been watching people mistake saviorism and performance as participating in liberation. And as a Black woman, and I've watched myself and other Black women be drained dry, expected to hold space, to teach, to translate pain, and to keep smiling for free, for the love of the breadcrumbs that are left behind. And, I'm doing some research right now because in the marketing world, traditional marketing teaches you, as a former marketer, it teaches you to give free value, right? And Gary Vee, who I'm actually going to reach out to have this conversation, because I don't know if he knows the nuance, but Gary Vee is the proponent of document, don't create, give value, and the people will come. But what happens when people have that internalized bias around Black folk and don't really understand the connection to the epigenetic history of that bias? And when I talk about epigenetics, a lot of people say that's not proven, it's not true. Well, Dr. Bruce Lipton talks about it, and he's in the spiritual space. Hey, Andrea. And then thank you for being a subscriber. And other folks talk about it. Thank you, Sam, for being a subscriber and writer for us, with us. And one of the things that sparks my mind is traditional marketing that's rooted in whiteness doesn't speak to the Black experience in marketing. And the Black experience in marketing is different than the white experience in marketing. And I hate that I have to make it so binary, but it's true because we don't think about how internalized anti-Blackness and saviorism impacts people's ability to invest in themselves, to do deeper work. And so I'm watching so many people perform shame publicly that the shame becomes the work. And what then happens is the work of justice, the work of liberation, the work of your deep healing, it's not happening. And we're on social media all day, and y'all are getting these hot takes, and you're getting short pieces of content, trying to piece together, okay, well, this is what I need to do. But at some point, it has to get a little bit deeper. And like the work that I do is not a stage. My labor is not like your public confessional. And my work is not about saviorism. And so I want to talk about it. So the first thing I want to talk about is saviorism masked at support, right? Saviorism masked at support. And here's my example. So we know in the culture of care and repair, that was a talk I gave at a client I had, a large nonprofit organization, water-based organization. My talk was a culture of care and repair and why that's important. And in the culture of care and repair, like, we know that we take care of each other, right? So when I think about saviorism as a support, I know that we share community care updates and we send out needs of the people. And so when there's a need, people show up for the need, right? And I am so freaking grateful for that. But when it's time to invest, it's like, oh no, I don't need to do the deep work on myself. I just need to just help everyone else. And what's interesting about saviorism, what we don't think about is that saviorism is a wound and it's a part that we all have. And saviorism is actually saying, let me fix this for you. But really, at the core of saving someone else, what's really happening is I want to feel better about myself, right? So, saviorism says, let me fix this for you. Let me help you. And it's saviorism because you also can't take care of yourself, but you're also showing up for everybody else. And so we have to start considering the codependency of saviorism and how people are actually doing things to feel better about themselves. So it's a nuanced view of what I'm saying. Another thing about saviorism as support is that saviorism is a rescue. And what if we move from rescuing to resourcing? What does that look like? How do we dream of a different way? And what does that mean for us on our journeys? And guilt is not a strategy. And so if you're moving from guilt, that's not a healthy strategy on your journey. And I think I said it yesterday or the day before on a live, like everyone is in this like spirit of hopelessness, and I get it. But Bell Hooks says our hopelessness builds inactivity. And when you need to come from inactivity, you need a strategy. And there needs to be a strategy that helps you remember one, why you're in this work, and two, that action is not a performance, and three, you are not here to save. The only person you are here to save is your inner child, the person who experienced the adverse childhood experiences, and your inner teenager. Those two parts of ourselves, the adolescence years and the teenage years, are the foundational years of why we react versus response. And the only person you need to save are those parts of yourself that still hold on to the wound of childhood. And you see it in your interactions. And maybe you haven't viewed it this way. Sometimes your reaction, because an experience can remind you in real time of something you experienced as a child. And so you show up. Because a lot of folks that I do work with one on one, they happen to tell me that, oh, well, in my family, I was the fixer. In my family, I was the black sheep. In my family, I was this. This is how I was viewed in my family. And what we don't recognize and realize is the ways that we were viewed in our family, that is our subconscious today. And so if you're in liberation work and you're not in conscious awareness, you're doing things and showing up just for the sake of saying you did it. It doesn't have a lot of intentionality behind it. Thank you, Christine, for being here. And so guilt is not a healthy strategy. And when you want to support someone, you have to think of, okay, this person, you know, really needs a lot of support. I wonder what resources I can help them find. And this is me speaking to you all as a former deacon and a pastor in a church. And when people would come for help, I remember working with other folks and just saying, hey, we can't just give a handout, right? Like, what's a care plan look like? Like, how do we not become enablers of people suffering, but how do we provide long-term care? So if I'm coming to you once a month and I'm like, oh, I'm short on my rent again. And if, let's say, your background is marketing and your coach, the resource is, let me see what's happening and what the glitch is so that I can give you the resource to not struggle versus, oh, here's some money because it feels like I'm throwing money at a problem. And that takes me to my next point around it doesn't get me there, but what does it look like to care from a place of wholeness and show up from wholeness without rescuing or saving, but resourcing? And your guilt, yeah, we have to get beyond the guilt, not me, but people in white bodies. And a lot of you are moving from guilt versus gratitude. And the guilt of actually committing and saying to yourselves, I actually need help. I think that's the biggest barrier is that a lot of people on this journey are unwilling to say, I need help. I am struggling. Because in a culture that tells you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, to say you need help and to say you are struggling may feel like a moral failure. But you have to start moving from that kind of scarcity mindset to, if I really want to be fully healed on this journey, I actually do have to start looking at myself and my behaviors and not just jumping on bandwagons to have talking points to argue with people on the internet or people I don't agree with, because all of this is codependency, manipulation, guys, and operated through codependency. Another thing I want to say is self-flagellation um, is unconscious kink. And this is not saying kink as in inherently bad. When you look at the history of BDSM and when you look at the history of white women and white men in relationship to each other, there is this need for flagellation. And the flagellation is a form of people pleasing. And it's actually kind of strange to me. And when I say the self-flagellation, I'm saying when I hear people say things to me like, tell me I'm a bad white person. Tell me what to do. It's almost like hearing, I want you to dominate me. I want you to boss me around. I want to be told what to do. I want to be talked at, not spoken with. When I say talked at, it's almost like you want to be dominated. And I believe that that's part of patriarchal's role in whiteness is the spirit of domination. And that's why I say there's an unconscious kink to it, because if I have to dominate you to get you to stay engaged on the journey, what are we doing? And then it turns into self-flagellation. And that's the shame spiral. You're taking yourself through spirals and spirals of shame, right? You're crying on post that doesn't help move the needle forward. You're calling yourself a bad white person. And it's getting you attention for saying those things. I'm such a bad white person. Or you center your bad white person behaviors as self-flagellation. What do you mean I'm centering my bad white person behaviors? Well, the first thing is when you're in a post and your sentence starts with, as a white person on an anti-racism journey, it is my responsibility, but I'm also having a hard time because I don't know how and where, and I just need someone to tell me what to do. And I appreciate this, Sam, the lack of self-trust. Self-flagellation and the lack of self-trust. Because you've been taught to not trust yourself in a system of oppression, you look for someone to do the work for you or give you the power to do it yourself. And so you spend time on your cell phone, you spend time on all of these apps looking for answers. So you go to posts where people are talking at you, because in the social justice industrial complex, the oppressed have become the oppressors. So to see someone who has been oppressed not move like an oppressor, it feels foreign to you because there's no sense of being dominated. And the reality is that we all are dominated in a system of oppression. And when we say liberation work, the goal should not be for you to want to be dominated or participate in self-flagellation. The goal should be to move towards self-reconciliation. And the only way to reconcile yourself is to not just do scrolling on social media, commenting on posts, calling people out because they're not saying enough about Gaza. There is so much more deeper work. And I'm getting curious if Gaza gives you something to stand for so you don't have to go deeper within yourself. Are you supporting causes as an avoidance strategy to self-flagellate and feel a sense of self-importance? This is not a popular conversation. And nor did I say you should not be advocating for Gaza, because someone will take what I just said and claim that I said you shouldn't be doing this, which goes to what many of the professors I work with saying is that we have a comprehension issue in America because we're not listening to understand, we're listening to react. And that's what self-flagellation is. And the lack of self-trust is you're listening to react. You're not listening to respond. You're listening to be, because if you're told what to do, you can react to that. But when you don't know what to do, then you flagellate yourself through shame. And shame is your teacher. Shame is an invitation of growth and healing. I said that in the first Check Your Privilege book, which is getting re-edited to go back out so that you all can buy the copy of the very first Check Your Privilege, Live into the Workbook so you can understand deeper. There's a deepening in the work. And you can't go deep if you're flagellating yourself, because self-flagellation is a form of self-centering. And when you come from a group of people here in America, that's always the center of the conversation. Flagellation is a survival strategy so that you still stay important. The lack of self-importance. You know, I also want to think about free labor. I'm working on a whole series for Substack. I really want us to start looking at capital. You have a group of people who know how to survive what we are navigating. And we're consuming them instead of offering resources and or financial support. Do you all know that free Black labor is probably an epigenetic wound that people in white bodies have because many ancestors had free Black labor? Not my ancestors, but when you start looking at capital from the lens of enslavement, you start to make the connections, which is why the conversation around free labor is super important. It's like you go to the Black-led accounts to get the information, but you don't compensate. And the compensation is a resource, time or dollars. That's what I'll say. Because not everybody got money either. But we've come to expect for Black bodies and Indigenous bodies to show up and just offer, and then we just consume. And consumption is another form of colonization. And again, this is not to guilt or shame anybody. This is really for us to slow down and just really consider. Just think about this for a second. I'm going to close my eyes because I can hear from source what they want me to say. I want you to really consider, just for a second, you have a group of bodies that know the land, how to cultivate the land, that know how to survive enslavement, mental, emotional, social, Jim Crow, to move towards rights for everyone. They have the knowledge and the lived experience. And you're taking from their lived experience. And you're doing two things. One, you're taking it to your white therapist and processing it in therapy. This happens to me all the time. Or two, you're taking it and you're creating your own subgroups of white women or white men or white people to do the work with. And it's a pattern that happens time and time again because it's easier to expect and have free labor than it is to actually invest in the deeper work with others. And the word invest can be really scary, but you go to yoga, right? You go to mindfulness classes, right? You give donations. You go to the gym, get your nails done, maybe, get a facial every now and then, a massage every now and then to care for your body. But investing in Black liberation and Indigenous liberation teachers is also a form of care for yourself. That is your political warfare. You know, Audre Lorde, she just came, I felt it, said, caring for myself is not self indulgence, it is an act of political warfare. Right now, we are in political warfare. And one surefire way, right, to move with this political warfare is to invest in the generals that know how to make the moves by investing in yourself. And yet, the same system that is telling you to buy this new blender, buy this shiny new outfit, buy these red bottom shoes, right? It's not telling you to invest in your healing. And maybe for you, investing in your healing is going to therapy. But what happens when you take liberation work to a therapist who's not decolonized? Then what? What works? What shifts? What changes? You know, there's a deep connection between free labor and emotional extraction. Because when you recognize and realize the gift that it really is to have Black and Indigenous people to want to help and support you, you can then recognize and realize, like, oh shit, this is true. You know what I heard from some white folks this week is that they are afraid that this is wild, that like I hear a lot of things. The fear that Black people will turn on them because of the way that their ancestors treated them. And I've been sitting with that for a second. We would have been turned on, y'all. We've never done it. So that bias is like, it really blew my mind that people think that. We've never done it. And in fact, no matter how oppressed we've been as a people, we've still showed up. I love that, Sam. The colonial revenge fantasy. The colonial revenge fantasy. It's unreal. But it's really wild to be consumed and seen as an object. It's really wild to read a post comment that says, I'm taking this to my therapist, and you're sitting here like, just book a coaching session. We live in some very interesting times right now. And so I've hit a couple of points. I've talked about Saviorism, manifest support. I've talked about self-flagellation and how that centers you. And I talked about free labor. And right now, you're probably sitting with a lot of discomfort, and that is amazing. If you never sit around discomfort from anything that I say, you're feeling a little too good. I want you to be uncomfortable. Just like people are uncomfortable when Black women ask for money. When Black women ask for money that does not center people needing help and care, you get crickets. When Black women ask for money for other people who need care, you get donations. This is my lived experience being a deacon and being a voice in the church. This is my experience on social media. I can get on the internet and say, I have a single mom of 5 that needs money to pay her rent and her bills. We need to raise $5,000 by Monday. we will raise $5,000 by Monday. When the message or the email comes that say, hey, right now I'm noticing that a lot of you have forgotten your way. I have 16 coaching sessions available. Invest in your healing because this is what's happening. So now I'm sitting with his donations, a form of saviorism, because you don't have to do the inner work to support somebody. What's the healthy balance? And that's my question for you all right now. What is the healthy balance? Let me put that on the screen so you all can see it on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And I would love some feedback, please. Please leave a comment on YouTube or Facebook, wherever you're watching from. What's the healthy balance between, hey, Substack fam, you can answer too, between caring via donation and investing in your deep liberatory work? What's the healthy balance? How can you do both? How can you give donations and mutual aid care, and how can you invest in your work? Because that's the both and in the work. The work is not just for you to say, oh, hey, oh, I'm throwing money at something. I feel good. You feel good in the moment, but then what? You give a donation to the woman, the single mom of 5 who needs help paying your bills. It's like that dopamine hit, right? It gives you that quick dopamine hit. And if you see me turn my head, I'm talking to our friends on Substack too. So you get your dopamine hit. But then you're taking liberation work to therapists, and not all therapists are decolonized. And also, if you're going to a white therapist, whiteness cannot see outside of itself. I'll never forget when said that. You can't be the problem and the solution. And I believe that that a lot of this is the struggle with internalized anti-Blackness. And I know members of the collective are actually getting ready to do the anti-Blackness challenge again. Because we're not recognizing the pattern. And if you have autism or ADHD, you're on the spectrum of any sort, your pattern recognition is on point. So if you're neurodivergent and you're watching me, you notice the pattern. I know you do. You notice the pattern, but now it's time to interrupt. And that's why I know Nikki Black's work is on interrupting white womanhood. Absolutely. So again, my question, hopefully someone can give me an answer. If you're watching, let's engage. What is the healthy balance between caring via donation and investing in your deep liberatory work? I will not move on until one person gives me something. This is the work. This is not me talking at you, telling you what to do, telling you what you should do. I don't know. I know what the collective can do. But to work one-on-one is where I can actually say, oh, blank, blankety, blank, 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 let's blank, blank, blank. Right? That is why I sent my email yesterday. That's why I sent my email this morning. That's why I'm sending another email. And if you're watching the replay, thank you. That's why I'm sending another email after this live. Because I would really like to have an answer to this question. Because if not, it makes you think that people are just throwing money out of you because they want you to be cared for, and also they don't want to, it's a bias. And I have to call myself out in real time so you all know I'm a human being. How do I challenge this bias? If you can pay for Netflix, if you can go DoorDash, if you can Instacart, if you have a closet full of the sense is not sensing for me. Not ruminating, not anxious, but the sense is not sensing for me. Sam Beard. Sam is a member of our community, a writer with us on Substack, and Sam and I worked one-on-one together. Sam is a totally different person. They are, I always tell Sam this, just to remind you, Sam, of your own growth. Because what the one thing I do with my clients is I do tell them, like, yeah, working with me is cute. That's great. Get in the collective. Get with other people on the same journey with the same belief, not the same beliefs, because we all don't always agree. Get in community. And that's what Sam did. But Sam just said, and this is very helpful. Let me remove this one and let's type what Sam said. And I'll read it out loud. I'm going to put quotation marks because we have to cite our sources, and I didn't say that. I'm just typing it in so you guys can see it here in a second. So Sam says that investment requires me to commit to the work long term. A donation is short term. And Monica says, Monica, thank you for all your support. I'll see you Tuesday, hopefully. And Monica, send me an email, and I need to email you because I know you booked to come to a workshop, but based on your comment here, sometimes I'm in the community and sometimes you can't be there for workshops because you lost your co-parent recently. Much love. I know how that feels. So if you want to do addiction to whiteness one-on-one, just send me an email. We can do it like a coaching session because you've paid for that. And I want to make sure you can do it at a time that works for you. So just, I think if you got my email or reply to this morning's email, just, hey, Maisha, can you send me your calendar? Because I want to adjust. Do you all see how this works when we're in community? When we're in community and we love each other and we care for each other, we make requests, which is what we learn in direct compassionate communication, which is why that's what we do in the collective, is teaching each other how to make requests. Like, I can't be here, right? So I saw that there's a need. Like, there's a need that Monica has to figure out the balance, but Monica has paid for a workshop, and I noticed that I haven't seen Monica at the workshop. So as a facilitator, it is, oh, there's a need. Okay, well, Monica, let me know a day and time. I'll send you the calendar link, and then we can do it one-on-one. Because the cost currently, before September 30th, the cost of the one-on-one is equivalent to the cost of the workshop. So it works out, I believe. It was this round. It was, yeah. Even if it wasn't, Monica's a loving member of the community and a big supporter and donates to Monica Balance. I've seen Monica balance both, and I get the privilege. This is now I feel a tangent coming. This is why I practice collective care and why I don't have Patreon, because over time you really get to know people. You really get to see their humanity. You really get to just really engage, right? And I don't have to see them as a fan. I can see them as a community member or collective member or friend or chosen family. That's some of the language that I've heard in the collective. And not in like a weird codependent way, not like in none of that. But it's like you get to know your people. You know what I'm saying? But to Sam's point, you got to figure out both, because investing requires you to commit to the work long term, and a donation is a short term. It's a dopamine hit. I what keeps coming to me is that quick hit of dopamine, because to sit and to do long term work is hard. It's like I don't have time. How do you know you don't have time? If you're scrolling on Instagram and you've been sitting with me for 34 minutes, you got plenty of time. Time is not the problem. You're frozen. I'm frozen. It says frozen for me. Time is a social construct. So how can you construct your time in a way that makes time to make sure that you also do deep healing? How do you do that? Do you know how many, before the social media challenge, which I have to go post today's prompt in, I looked at my phone, and I don't know if I was on the apps, but I saw that my app usage was like 17 hours, which is why I sign out of all the apps. And it's why I hide them so I don't see them on my phone. You can hide the apps, because I get on the apps and I get on here to create, to go live, and I log off. Because we don't realize even how doom scrolling, Scrolling, excessive scrolling is so much time. It takes away so much time. And now excessive scrolling has become a coping strategy to what's happening in the world. And this is why I don't watch a lot of content creators that say breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, because I've learned that breaking news, huh? Oh, Mario said breaking news breaks your pattern. Breaking news is a form of dysregulation. It is a strategy that people and systems have used to stop you in your tracks because it's a great call to action. And it is a sense of dysregulation. And in my 40s, I remember watching when that first Iraq war happened. I remember for some reason my grandmother watched the news a lot, and for some reason the TV was on. And I'll never forget, here's an ABC News special report. And what is the first thing that they've said since I was a child? Breaking news. This just in. Not that we're experts in cults, but do you know that cultism requires repetition of words and patterns? So if I'm in my 40s, if all I know is that breaking news means stop, breaking news, then that those two words become like an addiction that when I hear it, I have to stop and see what's going to happen next. Breaking news is oh my gosh, my brain just went to CIA stuff. But anyway, we're not going there publicly. But breaking news was created to stop us. There's a book by the father of marketing. I can't forget. They call this white guy, the father of marketing. I believe behind every powerful white man, there's always been a woman. So it's probably a woman who gave him this, where he talks about the psychology of marketing. And breaking news is a psychological mind strategy. Never will take credit away from Aaron Parnas and all the other creators that use it. I said Aaron Parnas with intention. Not even getting into it. If you know, you know. Because I don't engage in politics on public platforms. It is not safe to be a Black woman to engage in politics on public platforms. I shout out and send so much love to Dr. Michelle Taylor, also known as Feminista Jones, Keena Reed, Desiree B. Stevens, so many Black women who do. And then they put the labor behind it to keep educating that way. I just can't do it because I've had long COVID. I'll get inflamed, I'll get sick, and I am not worth getting sick because I want to go back and forth with you about politics. But I love it when I see sisters doing it because that's what we do. And that's why investing requires your commitment. That is why I say it's a chapter in Heal Your Way Forward. If you've ghosted, good, now recommit. 2025 should be your year of recommitment from 2020. This moment is an invitation to recommit. Except this time, you can't just go to a workshop. You got to find community collective. You got to invest on one-on-one. You got to invest in one-on-one coaching like you would invest in therapy. Reeling myself back to the psyop of breaking news, though. Breaking news is a strategy to keep you dysregulated and disinterested and disengaged from your body. This is why I've been saying since January, reclaim your nervous system. Don't you remember when Senator Maxine Waters said, I'm reclaiming my time? She was in a hearing when she was hitting the hammer, I'm reclaiming my time. Do you know how powerful it is to reclaim your time, to reclaim your energy, to reclaim committing to the liberation journey in a way where you're not just going to a therapist who's going to tell you, well, yeah, it's true, but how does that impact you? This is why I say the work is individual and collective, because when you are one-on-one with a therapist, which I recommend group therapy and individual therapy and collective, it's got to be a both, because when you're only one-on-one with somebody, it's great. I love it. I think I do my longest one-on-one has been a year. I usually stop people at 90 days and then I encourage them to get in community because the community and I can go deeper than just me and you. Sometimes this is gonna hate. I think Dr. Jennifer Milan says it in Decolonizing Therapy, but one-on-one therapy, in so many words, she didn't say it this way, is a scam too. Think about it. It's you reliving the patterns of childhood over and over and over again. Not only did Dr. Jennifer Milan say it, people in my life have said it. You're sitting in a room learning strategies to help you know how to survive in a system of supremacy. So, two and very important people in my life have said that, and I've been like, "What are you talking about?" And 5 years later, I'm like, "Oh, I even before Decolonizing Therapy came out, one of these people actually made me a chart, and she said, Maisha, look at every psychological theory that's ever came out. Look at the gender and the race of the person who created it. Do you see the pattern?" And I was like, "Dang, there's the pattern." So I say group therapy, 100%, because it reminds me of the indigenous practice of the talking circle. Like restorative justice, the practice that was taken from New Zealand, the talking circle with the talking stick. In the Dogra tribe over in West Africa, when there's conflict, the whole community comes together, there's a circle. And this is embedded in childhood. We don't do this here in America. The two people sit in the circle and their backs are facing each other. And they just get it all out, and the whole community is there to hold them. But the number one way to reinforce rugged individualism is one-on-one therapy. So if you're going one-on-one therapy, amazing. I've had to do it for my own mental health. Also try to find you a therapeutic peer support group. Please do both. And if you're watching me and you're like, I don't have time, if you have been watching me for 40 minutes, you got plenty of time. The problem is it's so easy to say, I don't have time, I don't have time, I have this, I have that. And sometimes you have to take a day and reclaim your time and say, you know what, today I'm going to open up my calendar. I'm going to slow myself down and I'm going to ask myself, what do I have time for today? Do you know being sick for almost a year? Do you all know what that has taught me? Tomorrow is not promised. And it's better to live slow and moment to moment than to be in urgency. That it's better to be in individual and collective liberation than just sticking with my own version of rugged individualism. But that was just part of what was alive for me in this moment. That's not my script for our conversation today. Because I really wanted to ask, I really wanted to get curious about why investing in yourself feels like work. And I'm really appreciating Sam saying commitment versus short term. And I really do believe that investment is an act of political warfare. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for watching the live. Um, thank you for being present. I want you all to stay in your discomfort, but don't stay in the spiral of shame. The truth can set you free, but first it'll piss you off. I haven't said that one since 2021. And I forgot who said it. It's not me. But the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. So I'm grateful for those of you doing the work quietly, those of you who are committed, those of you who are consistent, those of you who are doing it without the need for applause. You can join us this week on Tuesday for Addiction to Whiteness. You can join the 3K and 30-day campaign. Get you a copy of Heal Your Way Forward. There's so much, and there's so much time. You have plenty of time. You got to reframe your mind. I hope that you take away something from today's live. If you're watching the replay, thank you so much. If you are watching the replay from the email, thanks for opening your email. And I appreciate you listening to my perspective, and I hope you all have a beautiful rest of your day. Peace.